the past 2 games, the Panthers have suffered from slow first quarter starts with a big-time bugaboo coming to town. Can the Panthers survive a slow start again? We discuss that and more on this week's Hail to Pitt podcast.
What was your message about finishing it in these final 30 minutes?
Well, it happened in West Virginia where we knocked off number 2. It happened in South Carolina, and it's happening in Pittsburgh today. Our guys had a lot of guts tonight. We're just going to keep getting better. I mean, that's what it is.
One hell of a game that you will never, ever forget. We shocked the world!
Hail to Pitt.
Hail to Pitt. This is the week of November 13th, 2021, and this is the Hail to Pitt podcast. I'm Alan.
And I'm Vince.
Pitt weathered a short storm against Duke, and on a short week, they look to make it 2 for 2 against teams from North Carolina. UNC week, Vince. The week I hate most. It's here. Thursday night.
Alan, we always talk about, what weeks are the most stressful in our lives each year. This is easily a top 5 week. Every year, it doesn't matter. Just tons of heartbreak and corruption, it seems like, just plagues this week every single year, too often on a Thursday night too, so it ruins your weekend before it even gets started, but hopefully the Panthers won't let that happen this time around and come out of here with a victory.
I know I had to get scared on a Monday night this past week, Vince. Now I'm going to have my Friday probably shot, if you go by history, but Pitt's looking good enough to win this game, but it's going to be a tough one. All I have to say is it's still not my most stressful day of the next few months because I do have to marry my cousin, and I got to put that whole show together. It's like putting a whole show together for that thing. That's stress, family audience. That's big time for me. So I'm kind of not as upset about the UNC week this year, but with so much on the line, it may be the biggest stakes we've seen in this game ever because Pitt controls their destiny, but they have to win.
Yeah. Miami is just breathing down their necks right now. They're looking really good. I do think that they might have a tough battle this week, but we can't rely on that. The destiny's in our own hands. We control what happens out there. So we got to go out and come out of here with a victory. If we do not, it's very possible that ACC championship may be slipping away.
Yeah, well, hopefully we control it with some inside information. We got any UNC guys on our sideline maybe that can give us some signals to steal or anything?
We'll be talking a little bit about that in a second.
All right, let everybody know where to find us at H2P Show on Twitter. Outside of listening to the show, you can interact with us there on social media anytime, of course. And if you want to email the show, we are always available there too. Hail the number 2 Pitt podcast at gmail.com. We appreciate any interaction you give us, and we always enjoy talking to any Pitt fan out there, and of course the opponents. If you want to reach out to us, if you're scouting Pitt right now listening to this podcast, hit us up. We'll talk to you, even if you're a UNC fan. We appreciate the feedback also we get on Panther Lair and Reddit. We are brought to you by Pretty Easy Podcasts. Pretty Easy Podcasts, great place to go if you're a podcaster just getting started, looking for a little help, and you have some money you want to put into your show, but not too much because, of course, you need an affordable rate this day and age. Maybe you're doing it as a hobby. Maybe you're doing it for your business as a marketing thing because podcasting is all the rage, or you know someone who's been looking to podcast, they just can't get started. That's where you go. PrettyEasyPodcast.com. Get your own personal producer, help you with everything you need under the sun when it comes to podcasting, and it's so simple to get started. Just go to PrettyEasyPodcast.com and then reach out, and you are going to not regret it one bit like we have it, because it makes podcasting the most fun thing in your week, even during UNC week, Vince.
Yeah, you can't beat that. They do just make podcasting pretty easy.
Would you classify the win over Duke as an easy win?
After about 15 minutes, it certainly felt that way. A slow start again from the Panthers. Gave up a punt return for a touchdown. A sack fumble turned into another touchdown. But after that, Pitt really just got in gear and didn't really look back and put up some big numbers again.
Yeah, it was a zany start. I'd even call it, not even a slow start. And I wish there were stats. I got to look at those deep analytics on the team that goes up 12-7 in a game. I don't feel like the team that has 12 early in a game like that ever pulls out the victory. This team certainly did not, the Duke Blue Devils, although that kick return made you think, oh, maybe it's their day. Maybe they're going to have a day like the Chicago. Too. Yeah, I mean, like the Chicago Bears almost had this past Monday night. But then Pitt reeling off 5 scores in a row after going down to Duke the second time in that game, and then never looked back.
Yeah, and Pitt obviously the superior team. Duke is probably the worst team in the whole conference this year. Just not very good. I can't see how much longer Cutcliffe is going to be there. But one thing for me, I thought, you had there were a lot of injuries in this game. A lot of guys weren't playing even from the beginning. And, maybe it was, getting some new depth acclimated to starting roles. I'm not quite sure. Maybe that contributed some to it. But they just didn't seem in sync. They just didn't seem to come out ready to play. Is very similar to the Miami game. But thankfully Pitt was able to catch up and not look back.
Yeah, from this game, actually, mostly what I want to talk about, Vince, are the injuries, because moving forward, this was just a get the job done type game, but we want to move forward and look ahead, and the injuries that happened in this game might be significant. But I'll say what stood out to me was, of course, Rodney Hammond Jr., again, proving totally capable back, averaging over 5 yards per in this game, scored a touchdown, just pound him. Pitt really showing that in a close game in the fourth quarter, what they can do on the ground, it can be pretty impressive. They are bruising. I love it. I love Abanaconda and Hammond as a two for now. Vincent Davis is kind of taking the back seat, it looks like.
Yeah, and they've been doing this, quite a lot, where they've gotten up in the second half and they've just been able to run all over everybody. And that's why that Miami game, if they could have just gotten the lead there at the end, you had to think that they were going to be able to just run out the clock there. But with the way they've been running, and Alan, they did this. You had Marcus Minor, left guard, did not play. Gabe Hoy got hurt early in this game, and Matt Gonsalves came in, and that probably helped things there. I mean, he was just playing excellent. Gavin Bartholomew, who plays a lot of fullback, H-back type roles, and blocking and some of these formations, he got hurt late in the game, and still they were able to go out there and run very effectively, specifically towards the end of the game. So you got to feel good about that.
Well, I mean, seeing H-back action in that game, Bartholomew standing out, love it. We love seeing that. We love a great Hynoski game.
Yeah.
George Ashton game. Bartholomew, 1 catch, big touchdown. That was cool to see. It's just another weapon, for Kenny Pickett. And also, Lucas Kroll, I mean, he's been taking some licks lately, and it was
drop passes,
drop passes off the stat sheet in this one too. So Bartholomew stepping up in any ways is big if that's going to happen, if Kroll's going to slow down here as we get into this home stretch.
Well, hopefully Bartholomew is healthy enough to play. As I'm sure everybody knows, Pat Narduzzi not giving any identification on any of these injuries, for this Thursday's game.
Ugh.
But so hopefully we have him back because, as you said, Kroll hasn't been doing the best the past few weeks. And you had Taysier Mack, Jalen Barden, and Marquise Stovall at the wide receiver position, all either hurt or Stovall's case. I didn't know he was injured, but he didn't play. So they were really just going with only a few receivers. Obviously, Jordan Addison having a huge game, Jared Wayne a nice game. Shockey Jacques Louis probably had his best game in a while. And we said that a couple weeks ago. If Addison is going to be out, somebody's got to step up. Shockey definitely stepped up, 6 catches in this game. And Bradley, the freshman, who's had shown some nice flashes this year, but he did fumble the ball at a crucial time in this game, and you didn't see him very much after that. He's going to need to get back in gear, especially if these guys, these other receivers, are still hurt.
Yeah, the frustration on the injury front because guys are hurt, but also you don't know how severely as a fan. So let's just cross your fingers as hard as you can going into Thursday's game against the Tar Heels. Probably the ones that are most significant, Vince. I would want Taysier Mack in that game. I want Keyshawn Camp in that game. And I mean, at this point, I'd say Gavin Bartholomew, you also really are hoping is able to play in this game. Hallett, of course. And then we saw some injuries on the defensive line that are probably most concerning to me.
Yeah. Keyshawn Camp, Alan, I know you're a little surprised he got hurt this year.
Can't believe it.
But he was down, and it didn't look like he was going to be coming back anytime soon, unfortunately. So with the way, we're going to be talking about this a little bit, with the way North Carolina is running the ball, that interior line, they are going to be counted on big time this week.
That's going to be the big challenge this week, and we'll preview it in just a second. But one last thing we got to mention on the Duke game, or two things real quick. Give it up to Sam Scarton going for 4 for 4, kicking those field goals. Great on him. Just make sure you kick all those extra points too, and we'll be good. Still not totally confident in the Pitt kicking game, but maybe it's because Pat Narduzzi is more, subscribing more to just go for it. And I think we have Kenny Pickett to really thank for that, Vince, because we have him. Pat Narduzzi isn't going to go for those field goals in the goal line anymore. Well, you would hope not.
You would hope not. And we talked about it in that Miami game, just, some of that play calling late in the game on the goal line. I mean, you got Kenny Pickett back there who is just, doing everything he can to win. He's had just, this was a tremendous game by him. I mean, I know it's against, bad competition, but he played outstanding. Yeah, he absolutely did. Throwing the ball, running this offense, putting up over 50 points again. Just an outstanding game. And to me, Alan, even if Pitt finishes with 2 losses, and they're not making the college football playoff, I think he's certainly earning himself at least an invitation to this Heisman Trophy presentation. I mean, not necessarily win it, but you got to think he's continuing to put up these big numbers, even in losses. He's putting up huge numbers. It's just very impressive.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing is it's a year where quarterbacks are probably not going to get too many invites, right? Who
else would go?
Exactly. I mean, are they going to invite Bryce Young just because he's the Alabama quarterback and has thrown a whole bunch of touchdowns? I wouldn't think so, because he's not even close to tops in yardage and efficiency in the nation. Kenny Pickett is close to the top in both categories, or in all 3 categories. He's been consistent, and he's on a team that only has at this moment in time 2 losses. So he's still a winner. and could be a conference championship winner if he keeps it up. And by the time they send the invites, they'll have a clear picture of that stat as well. So I think the hope is still there for Kenny Pickett to at least get the invite. Probably a long shot to win unless he goes out and throws 18 touchdowns in the next 2 games. And that's going to be very difficult to do.
He may need to do that in order to win the next 2 games. There's going to be a lot of points scored in these ones coming up.
So the Heisman watch is not completely over for Kenny Pickett, but maybe some of the buzz has died down, understandably, after the Miami loss. But he definitely got back on the right track against Duke, even though Duke knew every play call probably that was called by Mark Whipple, and also on defense for the Pitt Panthers. That's why that game was probably so slow. Carson Van Lin was over there stealing signs, according to Pat Narduzzi.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, I can't believe he called out a player on the other team for doing this.
Great.
And
he will not tell you anything about an injury on his own team, but he'll call out another guy on the other team for cheating and take a picture with him after the game smiling.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure, Carson Van Lin shared whatever information he knew about the Pitt system to his coaches. I mean, that's pretty common to do whenever you switch teams. I got no problem with that. But yeah, to suggest that he was like stealing signals during the game or something, I don't know. That's just, I mean, that's a little ridiculous. And shame on Pitt for not changing their signals since he's left. I mean, my goodness.
I mean, Nick Saban has no issue with that against guys who used to work for him. So there shouldn't be an issue, especially with Carson Van Lin on the other side. I mean, maybe if he was in a higher spot over on the Duke sideline, I don't know. But that was funny that Narduzzi even mentioned that. It wasn't even a big deal too. He didn't make a big deal out of it. I think he just mentioned maybe it's an excuse for the slow start. I don't know.
That's what I took it as. Yeah.
I just sometimes can't fathom the things that he actually says. And it's never too terrible, but it's always on the verge of like, what? But it's never anything we should be really mad about. So just another Narduzzi week.
Could you imagine if he was a head coach in like a town that, this was the only show happening, and they just every person in that town just lives and breathes with every word that the head coach says, and what people would be saying about that. Like if he was in Baton Rouge or Tuscaloosa saying something like this, I mean, it would be outrageous. The whole town would explode.
Yeah, I mean, if this was in Auburn or something, they would be putting pictures of Carson Van Lin in the middle of the quad and burning it in effigy and cursing him out and calling for investigations from their conference commissioner. It'd be all they'd be talking about. They'd make a huge deal out of it. But again, I think he's maybe even said some of this in jest. I don't know. I mean, I think he's playing 4D chess sometimes, or he's just a goofball, Pat Narduzzi. I don't know. But he's got it going this year for the most part, except for, not changing some defensive calls in some games and maybe not being fully prepared for a young Miami quarterback. But Pat Narduzzi is being Pat Narduzzi in the middle of a really fun Pitt football year. So I guess that's what we should expect, and we should be happy we're getting it, because at least he's making the ride entertaining, no matter how it's going to end.
Yeah, it certainly has been wild. And Alan, I expect some wildness this Thursday night.
Yeah, wild and out Thursday night, Heinz Field, North Carolina, 5-4. I mean, a huge disappointing year for them.
Yeah,
they were supposed to be the team to take the throne from Clemson, possibly.
Yep.
They were supposed to be the ACC favorite, that have the quarterback that was going to, do the rooster strut all the way to the NFL. And, he's no Chanticleer. He's a Tar Heel, Sam Howell. And, he's all right. He's doing all right. He's turning it up. They beat Wake Forest, but they're running the ball really well.
They are running the ball very well. Ty Chandler, this guy rushed for over 200 yards last week against Wake Forest. Sam Howell, he rushed for over 100 yards last week against Wake Forest. He may not be rooster strutting, but he is playing very well. I'll say that right now. Make no mistake about it. I know this team is only 5-4. And that's, which is very disappointing for a preseason top 10 team. But, this guy is very good. Make no mistake about that. He is dangerous. I still think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country from what I've seen him play recently. I think, the changing of a lot of skill position players, a bad offensive line, a defense that can't stop anybody. I think that all of that stuff contributed to a slow start for him personally, but he's obviously really picked it up as of late. I don't think there's any question about it.
Yeah, Pitt may be averaging, close to 50 a game and over 500 yards a game, and the Tar Heels are down, but they're still averaging nearly 40 points a game and nearly 500 yards a game. Yeah. So that offense is going to come in, and it really on paper shapes up to be not quite Pitt Syracuse from a handful of years ago, but high scoring and high octane, and a really fun night for the ACC on a big stage on Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, that Josh Downs freshman receiver that they have. I mean, this guy has just been all over the place. Him and Chandler just making huge plays to get back in that Wake Forest game. They were down by a couple touchdowns in the fourth quarter, and then all of a sudden, they had the lead, and they had a stranglehold on Wake Forest in that game, winning it 58-55. Even in games that they've lost this year, they've outside of the first week, first few weeks, they've still been putting up a ton of points. We know this, that Pitt has not been able to stop North Carolina very good at all on defense. Outside of really, the last game that they played against them, I don't have that stat sheet in front of me from 2 years ago, the game that Pitt did win in, I believe, on a Thursday night at Heinz Field. But, that game, Pitt was up from what I recall, and then all of a sudden North Carolina was back, forcing overtime. Pitt was able to make a big play at the end to win the game. But, Alan, do you see Pitt's defense being able to offer any resistance at all to this North Carolina offense?
I mean, it's probably not too much, but the real difference in the game, I think, is going to be who provides just that little thimble's worth of resistance. who makes the splash play? Who makes the turnover? Last week, Cameron Kelly for the Tar Heels had 2 picks in the game against Wake Forest, in a game where they needed to make plays like that to come back. They didn't get after Sam Hartman too much. Their defensive line, their pass rush isn't great. Pitt's is pretty damn good, close to great, and that's why I think you give them the edge. They have the ability to disrupt way more than UNC does defensively, so that'll be hopefully the difference. But again, health, a huge concern going into the game.
Yep. We're going to be down a few guys. Or at least we presume we're going to be down a few guys. I guess we'll find out whenever we kick off on Thursday. But I like what you said there about the defensive line. I think they're going to have to play, maybe the game of their lives in order to beat this team. Not just from a penetration standpoint, stopping the run. They're also going to have to get to Sam Howell. But the thing is, to me, Alan, even if they have a good pass rush, even if they could get to him quickly, it's those quick passes that I just don't. If Downs is lined up in the slot and they're not pressing him at all and they're giving him a free release, I mean, he's going to kill us. He absolutely is.
Yes, it doesn't look great on paper for the Pitt defense, considering them going into big games with big expectations and what happens, against a quality opponent. And this is definitely a quality opponent. We, again, can't stress it enough. North Carolina down year, but they're still quality. Mac Brown also is now coaching, instead of with expectations for his team, he just looks really pissed off on the sideline. I mean, they were winning at the end of the game. The game was pretty much wrapped up, and he just looked angry as hell. And that's how they're playing. They're playing like an angry team. And in the ACC, having the expectations, having the juice, having the being the favorite is not really a great thing. It's something you really don't want. It's hard to maintain. It's harder to win in this conference, especially when everybody's pretty much even for the most part, and you go into a game with the weight on your shoulders. Pitt has the weight. North Carolina doesn't in this game. Sam Howell's going out there to look good in front of scouts and improve his draft stock. Meanwhile, Kenny Pickett is now right in his rearview mirror, hopefully for the NFL draft. So what a great matchup for everybody to market to between two possible future NFL quarterbacks. This game should be damn good if you love offense. Pitt's defense, though, it's capable. It totally is, and I'm not as distraught and nervous as I probably should be, Vince. I have a good feeling about the way the Pitt defensive line is going to approach this game, and also about how Sam Howell reacts to pressure. I don't think he's as good under it as Kenny Pickett is.
Okay. Well, that's a good point. I like what you said there, because they're going to need to put pressure on him, and they got to do it early. We talked about at the beginning of the show, against, Miami, that game, I mean, giving up like 3 huge plays, giving up 21 points in whatever it was, the first 5 minutes or so, and then really settling down and stopping them at a reasonable rate the rest of the game. We cannot afford to get behind in this game. I think, Pitt's going to be under pressure to score just about every time that they touch the ball. But that running game, if they can run the ball effectively with a lead, still get points, but take a lot of time off the clock, I think that is going to be just absolutely massive in this game. If they can get a lead, if they can have a lead late in the game, we've seen Pitt able to just squeeze the life out of the clock. I think this game, more than any other game they've played this year, is going to happen.
Yeah, that's also really interesting part of the game is North Carolina is a team that doesn't die. I mean, we proved it last week. Yeah, and really there's got to be, I think, at least 3 scores between you if you want to be comfortable against them, maybe in the fourth, and that's halfway through the fourth quarter. College football games are long, man, but Pitt has the personnel and the personality to close out games we've seen, and hopefully they have the opportunity to do it, and they're not playing come from behind football in this one. And hopefully the task at the end is squeeze the life out of it and put the defense in a good position to prevent Sam Howell from going downfield to win the game, because I think it's going to come down to 1 score, and hopefully it's UNC with – I wouldn't be upset if it's UNC with the ball at the end, as long as they're way far down the field with little time left, Vince. That's what I'm hoping for, because that run game does it with some maybe good punting or a field goal or something.
Well, I was field goals. I know Sam Scarton, he had, as great as he did last week, hitting all those field goals. We need him on the bench this game. I feel like this is one where you may need to go for it a little bit more than what you would normally do. You got to be able to take some risks here. And the thing is, you got Kenny Pickett, for crying out loud. This guy has just been, he's been magical on third down, magical on fourth down. He can do it, and I think he's going to have to in order to extend some drives. That's going to be very key in this game.
You think the universe is going to make things right and give Pitt their safety back that they didn't get against Miami in this game? I would really love to see that.
They gave it to Duke last week.
That doesn't count. That just felt like piling on. That was terrible to see. But a splash play like that, or a pick six or something. I know it's hard. Servassier Dennis getting in the backfield and intercepting a handoff or whatever it was is not going to happen. But anything. Can Pitt get an interception on a slant pattern or a pass over the middle ever? Will that ever happen?
That's what I don't understand. Why aren't they jumping these routes a little bit more? I mean, you're playing off. You know what the other team's going to do to you. I mean, I don't know. I'm not smart enough to figure that out. But are any of these injuries, Alan? I know you mentioned Keyshawn Camp. Are there any other of these injuries that you're extremely concerned about not having these guys available for Thursday, if any, and certainly we don't know for sure.
No, I mean, Hallett being on the field defensively is, you want all the personnel, even though Pitt's deep, but having all the personnel possible in a game like this, you need all hands on deck. And that goes for the skill positions too. Tazier Mack, who's a big time player, has made big catches in crucial moments. Having him in this game, I think, is going to be necessary. Although you saw Shockey Jock step up after you called him out a little bit a few weeks ago, Vince. But I'm more comfortable with Mack being in those spots. I love the play. My favorite play call is Mack wide open deep down the middle of the field. Run that more.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, I'm going to say Bartholomew because he has just made this offense just so dynamic. Lining up in the backfield, lining up on the line of scrimmage, split out wide a little bit. He has just been able to really cause a lot of matchup problems. Not that he's getting the ball a ton, but it's definitely somebody that the defense has to account for. And he's doing a lot of good blocking in the running game as well.
So matchup wise too, I think when you look at the protection of Sam Howell, he's not being protected by the best tackles in Tucker and Richards. And they got I think it's Tucker who's like this. He's a load, a huge human being, like 350. So possibly a little bit slower than the Pitt edge rushers especially have been facing. So maybe they could take advantage and use some of the speed and the hooks and those rips and just slice through and get the short field onto Sam Howell, because it's going to take that. I don't know about getting the pressure from up the middle, especially if there's injuries. So look for the edge to be really important when it comes to matchups this week, because that's the only way I think Pitt is going to be able to slow down North Carolina some. The run game, I don't know. I'm pretty confident in Pitt not giving up 400 yards on the ground or whatever it is to this team collectively. 100-yard rusher, fine, that's okay, as long as it's contained and there are splash plays made and you make those on the edge when you get pressure, most of all, I think.
Yeah. Those defensive ends, they're going to have a tremendous game as well. They got to get in there. They got to get to them, and they got to bring them down.
Yeah, I'll be wearing my my makeshift Haba Baldonado jersey until they start selling them in Rome, while I'm in Rome watching the game on Thursday, Vince.
Yeah, it's going to be a late night or early morning for you. I'm not quite sure which one yet.
Now, I'm going to consider it the early. I'm going to try to get the nap in before the kickoff. It's a 1:30 a.m. local time kickoff for me here. So I'll be live. You could hit me up during, barring, internet connections and streams and whatnot. Give me a few minutes.
Okay.
All right. So we have the matchup set. We've laid it all out for you. Pitt, North Carolina. I hate it. You hate it. You dread it every year, but it's happening, and it's a must win for Pitt if they have hopes of winning the ACC. And it could very well happen. Favored by what, 6.5?
Yep.
We'll talk more about that spread and give our picks in terms of the score for the game in just a little bit. But for right now, let's see what they're saying on the Pitternet.
Can you explain what internet is?
I hear there's rumors on the internets.
And to all those faceless keyboard warriors on Twitter.
But we're a good darn football team. I'm proud of these guys.
We're going to take it to Panther Lair this week. Ogden 1325 was on Panther Lair and said, quote, I placed a $250 bet on Pitt before the season to win the ACC. I got them at 66-1. Sweet. With a potential payout of $16,750. Casino is offering almost $5,000 right now. Should I cash in or let it ride? Afraid Pitt loses this UNC game and Miami wins out. Before Miami game, they were offering $8,800. Should have taken it. Oh my goodness. What? Don't ask me this, Ogden 1325. I mean, past history, what we've seen for a couple games this year, I'd probably say take that $5,000, man. But this week, because it's not just this week. He has to run the table if he wants that $16,000. That's why they call it gambling, Vince.
That is why they call it gambling. I don't know. I guess it depends on is $5,000 a lot for this individual?
Yeah. Is this what's your financial situation here,
Yeah.
Ogden? Is $5,000 going to do you any good, or is that 16 really going to sweeten it, and you're going to be able to maybe get that really huge, expensive flat screen nobody has for next year? Or you're going to be able to pay off some student loans. I don't know your situation, man. If it's me, I'm taking the $5,000 right now because it's going to be very tough for Pitt to win this ACC. They've never done it.
Now, he could, if he wanted, he could hedge a little bit, get something out of it. By betting on, maybe you bet some amount on North Carolina, because Miami would still need, or would need to run the table as well. They have a game against Florida State this week, Alan, that I think they could lose. It would not surprise me if the Noles, who have been playing better as of late, ended up winning that game. But if it were me, Pitt's having this magical season. I'm letting this thing ride. I'm letting it play out, because they could still lose this game and still end up on top.
It's true. It does take also Miami winning out, so that you throw that in there.
Maybe you see what happens on Thursday, and then if we do lose, you bet a hell of a lot on Florida State or something like that. I don't know.
Man, and me, I'm putting myself in their shoes, Ogden 1325. Vince, like I got they've been postponing it, but now in January I got my second stint at Pitt. The student loans are starting back up again.
Oh my! And
if I just went for that 16, I'd just pay it all off right away. So maybe I'm riding it out too. If I'm him, maybe actually, the more I think about it, be the more responsible thing.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the next part of our Pitternet action here, and it's still on Panther Lair, where the Pitt talk was hot and heavy this week, obviously with UNC and an ACC title insights, also hoops getting underway.
Yep.
Lots to talk about. Left my liver at the SOD on Panther Lair said, anyone else see UNC fans storm the field after beating Wake Forest? They were 3-point favorites. They are going to have to board up the windows in Chapel Hill if they ever beat Clemson. Feel free to discuss. If not, feel free to move along.
Well, I'm gonna discuss. Yeah, that was a little surprising. I mean, yeah, that's somewhat of a rivalry, and I don't know how big of a rivalry it is, but North Carolina was favored in that game. I know Wake Forest was an undefeated team, but is that storming the field worthy? Not for me. It's not.
People who get upset about the storming the field.
But I'm not saying I'm upset about it. I'm just saying that I wouldn't say if it should be like a. I don't think that was that special of a moment to storm the field. I think there were probably other opportunities. I don't know.
Of course not. But then you have to put yourself in the shoes of a party animal at North Carolina who is sitting there, was hoping for a big ACC championship season, didn't come, and you've been hanging out, drinking all day at Chapel Hill, probably doing, bong loads or whatever the kids are doing these days, just raging. And then you're in the stands, you're getting all hyped watching this game. They're playing all your favorite hip hop jams on the loudspeakers game long. You got all the adrenaline going, and they win this big close game. What else are you gonna do? Go back to class and say, "Oh, that was one hell of a game. Now let's go study." I mean, that's not how the world works. Kids get people get all jacked up and hopped up on the adrenaline, whatever else they're putting into their body, and then the atmosphere. They're going to run out on the field and celebrate and do cartwheels and kick the air like that guy who sacked Ben Roethlisberger did, and then get bumped by a referee. I don't know. People get excited, and let them be excited as long as nobody gets hurt. I'm fine with it.
Yeah. I'm not gonna totally disagree with that. The main reason I wanted to talk about this though is now that game that happened Saturday afternoon. It's a short week. North Carolina is probably going to fly here on Wednesday and play this game Thursday night. Do you think they're going to be blowed up because of this?
That is something you would hope, because that was an emotional game, a long game, physical game. But I never put any stock into that, the carryover from 1 week to these are athletes. This isn't you or me where, I did 50 sit-ups yesterday for the first time in a long time, and I can't move today or tomorrow. They're training every single day. They're athletes. I mean, bumps and bruises will happen, but collectively the team will be ready for Pitt, and I wouldn't count on it at all. Okay. But maybe they'll get blown up early in the game just because Pitt does such a good job of playing physical and wearing on them and playing to the best of their ability, and they have that ability to wear a team out by the third quarter. If they play to their potential on offense, especially on the offensive line, disciplined, and everything I think will pan out if they are disciplined on the offensive line, because then the physicality is what they can do. Really, innate. That just comes naturally to the Pitt offense. I think it's a quality physical team that just gets in its own way sometimes, and if they do that, they'll blow UNC up themselves.
I hope so.
Okay, so a couple good morsels there to sink our teeth into from the Pitternet, but I mean, all over the city of Pittsburgh, Vince, it's a new era. It's the ACC championship, potential first ever ACC championship, a new mayor, a new season here with the cold coming in and fall, potential snow even coming soon. Around town, it's just a very different type of vibe, but still people aren't quite used to what's going on right now, especially when it comes to Pitt football.
No, they're not. A lot of people asking me every day stuff about Pitt, and people that I didn't even know that they knew that the university existed.
Another Saturday coming, and the Panthers are playing, trying to find out what the Panthers are saying.
Pitt ain't going to no playoff, but winning the ACC, that wouldn't be too bad either.
They ain't win the Big East or nothing. I mean, come on. I'd be happy with it, but whatever.
You do know the ACC, much bigger conference than that.
It just don't mean as much for some reason, though. It's like Kennywood getting rid of all them rides. It just ain't the same.
Hell to Pitt.
What the Panthers are saying.
So that's what the Yinzers are saying. Still a lot to play for. This ACC championship. This is still a big deal if Pitt can win this thing. Make no mistake about that. Alan, the season is coming to a close here. Some big games happening around the country. We're kind of doing this before the college football playoff rankings get announced on Tuesday. But there were several teams that lost, so some big shakeups, but still a lot at stake out there.
Yeah, there's really some interesting debates they have to have. I think even more so than past seasons, the college football playoff. I think they're going to have a bad taste in their mouth. Regardless, they're going to put someone in that they really collectively don't want to when it comes to the bottom line. But let's talk about one team that totally did what we knew they would do, and that's the Michigan Wolverines. They ended up losing. It's always either to Michigan State or Ohio State, or maybe both. Definitely Ohio State, usually. But they lose to Michigan State this year, Vince, and they take on Penn State now. And I mean, this game is really going to come down, I think, as it does, and which quarterback can be less boring but not make mistakes. And I think Michigan and McNamara are more capable of that. Sean Clifford, I wouldn't trust in a spot like this, especially with that angry bounce back game for Michigan here. So I'm picking the Wolverines.
Yeah, I think so too. From what it seems like, Penn State's maybe a little bit banged up on the defensive line. Michigan able to run the ball very effectively. And like you said, they are able to get some big passes when needed. I guess this game is at Penn State. Maybe that's why the line is a pick 'em. I would have thought Michigan would have been favored in this game, but they're not. So maybe that's a little cause for concern. But I am going to pick Michigan, which is still a huge game for them. They can still win the Big Ten, or at least get a bid to the Rose Bowl.
And also Penn State last week, huge disappointment. Only picking off Talia Tagovailoa once. I mean, come on. I mean, it should. It's not that hard, right? I mean, it's easy. It should have been an easier game for them. They only won by what they went 30 to 14, 31, 14.
Like
yes,
that, yeah.
Underachieving as usual. But what are you going to do? But this is a game that still implications for the Big Ten title game. Is Michigan still alive, even though they have the blemish?
Yeah. If they would run the table the rest of the way, I think there's a good chance that they would make it.
Doubt it happens. Oklahoma is at Baylor, Vince, and this is fun. Oklahoma 9-0.
Yeah,
but ranked 8th because nobody respects the Big 12 anymore.
Yeah, what's interesting is Oklahoma's got a lot of their big games coming up here at the end. They're going to be playing Baylor this week. They have Iowa State and Oklahoma State. So, I mean, even if they win these games, they are going to leapfrog people and they will be in that top 4. I promise you.
How about Baylor losing to TCU without Gary Patterson, his first game after leaving the university? Fans stormed the field after that one too. It's a new dawn, a new era there at TCU, and Baylor totally muffed that one. Surprising because I was expecting more discipline and steady play in the Dave Aranda era, but Baylor tripping up there and just, I don't think explosive enough to beat Oklahoma, Vince. How about you?
I don't think so either. I mean, Oklahoma coming off a bye here. I know they are going to Waco, but laying less than a touchdown. To me, it seemed. I haven't been a big believer in Baylor this whole year, so I am going to side with Oklahoma. I'm not saying I'm going to get to the window or anything with it, but I do think Oklahoma is going to win this game. And as unimpressive as they've been, they've still been very impressive.
NC State at Wake Forest, and I just want to double check. Does this actually count as an ACC game? Because I never know anymore.
It does.
Okay, Okay. All right. Wake Forest looking for a bounce back, still undefeated in the ACC.
Yep, and they are going to need to win this game, I think, in order to make a run at the Atlantic Division Championship. If you look at the standings right now, they are 5-0, but NC State is 4-1. So if NC State would beat them, NC State would be in the driver's seat for that championship. And NC State has already played Clemson, so they have that kind of behind them. They finish with Syracuse and North Carolina, so it's not necessarily two extremely easy games, but NC State would be in front. But I am going to go with Wake Forest to win this game. I think it's just too much firepower. I mean, I do like NC State's defense. Don't get me wrong, but I just don't think they're going to be able to score enough to beat this team.
I don't really disparage NC State's offense that much, though. I'm picking NC State to win, Vince. I think Devin Leary's not that bad of a QB.
He's not,
and probably just getting overshadowed by an ACC that's actually packed with some of the best quarterbacks in all of college football this year. I mean, it's a down year, but you might say, but I think he's right there and capable of beating the Demon Deacons in this, and I'm going to pick them. And I'm looking here at the analytics on it on the PFF side, which also informs us every week when we talk this segment. And the cash is all on NC State, pretty much.
Really?
Tickets on Wake Forest.
Ooh,
and when it comes to that,
okay,
2-point spread at least, and they're saying bump that spread down even a little bit from the 2. So I like NC State to pull off the win. It's a close. This is nearly a pick 'em.
All right. I'd still lean Wake Forest, but those numbers you presented to me are a bit concerning, I guess.
And of course, that game very much of interest to the Pitt Panthers and all of us as we watch ACC football this week. But we do love SEC football too here. A&M is at Ole Miss, Vince, 2.5-point favorite.
Yeah, I feel like, Alan, this is two of our favorite teams going at it here. College game day, going to be at the Grove in Oxford. I can't wait to watch this game. A tremendous defense in Texas A&M, wild offense with Ole Miss. This is what it's all about. I think I am going to pick Ole Miss to win this game at home. I think I am.
And how could this shake out? Does this have any effect? I mean, Alabama has lost to A&M, but they're not going to slip up. So really, whoever wins this is still.
Well, I think whoever wins this game, I mean, obviously there's some, depending on what happens with Alabama and Georgia in the SEC title game, if somehow both those teams would make the playoffs, the winner of this game would have a very good shot at the Sugar Bowl. And if Alabama does not make the playoff and they are in the Sugar Bowl, the winner of this game would have a very good shot to make the Peach Bowl or Fiesta Bowl, part of that New Year's 6 celebration.
Wow. So in a season where A&M beat Alabama, they still are going to end up really not anywhere near the main event.
That's a tough pill to swallow. But I'll say this, and this would be getting way ahead of ourselves, was that, if Pitt does win this ACC championship, it's very possible Pitt could be playing the winner of this game in a bowl game. How about that?
Okay, in that case, I'm picking Ole Miss because I want to see Matt Corral versus Kenny Pickett so bad.
Oh, yeah.
And that brings us to you picked Ole Miss, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And that brings us to Pitt, North Carolina, Vince.
Yep.
6.5-point favorite at home, Heinz Field, Thursday night.
Yeah, look at this game. I was surprised to see that the total was only 73 points. To me, this feels like it's going to be just tremendous amount of scoring. I know, Pitt's defense has played very well at times this year. We know that they have a lot of potential. But this is the kind of team that they really struggle to stop. I think the defense, that defensive line is going to have to play the game of their lives in order to, really get after Howe and just disrupt everything.
I mean, you would think so. But then the more I look at it and I look at what North Carolina has done this year, and after that game, maybe not blown up, but maybe ready for a letdown. And I haven't consulted PFF yet for this week's game, Vince. I was going to pick it a little bit closer, but they're telling us here cash tickets all on Pitt for the spread, and also they're picking a 7.5 point victory for Pitt.
Wow.
Over UNC. I mean, that's kind of unexpected when you just think of it as a Pitt fan. But then I guess if you're looking unbiased and just looking at data points, maybe Pitt is that much better on paper. I can't do that, though, because of the injury aspect of this game. We have no idea. So I'm going to go ahead and pick Pitt to win 41-38 thriller on Thursday night.
Wow. Okay. I am not as confident as you are in this game. I am just so concerned about this defense stepping up and making enough plays and getting off the field enough in order to stop them. In these slow starts we've seen these past few weeks have just really it's got me very nervous. So I do not think we're going to win this game. I think we're going to lose 51-50.
Oh my goodness. Oh man, I hope it's lower scoring, and if we're going to lose. I can't take scoring that many points and losing that way, similar to Wake Forest did. At least their game didn't even count for ACC standings. This one does. That would be brutal. Don't tell me that. And hopefully it doesn't come down to some kick at the end for Pitt at Heinz Field at night when it's just starting to get real cold and windy.
Yeah, that would not be good. I hope for everybody's sake it doesn't come down to that.
And quick pro tip too to both coaches. I mean, if you are 66 yards away from a field goal at the end of this game, there's no point in kicking the ball when you're at Heinz Field from that far. Just a stupid decision that would be. Just throw the Hail Mary at that point. Goodness.
Yep. Oh my. This is good. This game is not for the faint of heart.
It isn't. It's the one we always dread, but it's here and we're ready for it because we just got ready for it, Vince. Totally and completely thoroughly prepared. That's all we could do going into a game like this.
Yep. I'm ready to go win or lose.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to the Hail to Pitt podcast. We will be back next week. I think I'll be in Rome, Vince, and we will be discussing what happens after Pitt UNC moving forward to University of Virginia. Another game I've been dreading all season as well.
Yeah, that's gonna be a wild game as well. But we'll see. We got to take this one game at a time. That's what they say you got to do.
Anything left, Vince? Any more wisdom?
Well, I do want to talk about just real briefly Pitt basketball. Men's and women's getting started this week. At some point, we'll be talking in depth about them. And the Pitt men's soccer team, Alan, semifinals of the ACC championship Wednesday night. I believe they take on Notre Dame in a big battle there. So hopefully the Panthers could bring home the gold in the ACC championship, men's soccer.
Yeah, Forza Pitt footy, baby. All right, we'll be getting into more and more of that as the football season winds down. That's for sure. And I'm hyped, Vince. Let's do this.
Yep, let's do it.
All right, everybody. At H2P shows where you could follow us. Of course, if you want to reach out anytime, that's where you could do it. Or hail the number 2 Pitt podcast at gmail.com. Thanks for listening, Vince. Give him that last bit before we get out of here so they're confident going into the scariest game of the year.
Saturday night, 7:30, Heinz Field. Be there. Big time game. ACC championship on the line. ESPN nationally televised. Hail to Pitt.
Oh, what more can I say? Hail to Pitt, everybody.
But I always dreamed about